Hi, my name's Andy Parkin, Managing Director of the multi-award-winning Speed Screed. I'm here today to talk about what is liquid floor screed. Now, it's a question that we're often asked, and it's a distinction from the other products that are on the market. Relatively, it's a new product on the market, really. Having said that, it took a few years to probably get to the position that it currently stands at. So it was probably introduced into the UK probably some 60 years ago. But it is relatively new in terms of market, the market that it actually captures. It's been getting slowly bigger and bigger, and probably, I would say, probably accounts for around about 15 to 20% of the current screed market. Now, predominantly, it would be a calcium sulfate screed, so that's a calcium sulfate binder, although there is a flowing product that is cementitious as well, that's on the market as well. But we'll centre around the calcium sulfate version because that is the biggest selling liquid screed on the market. The product is pump applied. So lots of sand and cement can be pumped into place, but with this being liquid, that really is the only way to, certainly for large volumes of the product, for it to be supplied. So it comes in a truck mixer, discharged into a screed pump, and then pumped directly to the area where it's needed. So what kind of applications can you use this product for? So it is for levelling, subfloor levelling. So it's where you've got a structural substrate. So this type of screed generally isn't a structural item. It can go over underfloor heating, it can go unbonded, bonded, and floating on insulation or acoustic membranes. It's suitable for residential and commercial floors. Some of the key features are that it is very, very low shrinkage. So if you compare it to a traditional sand and cement, you're going to have a lot less shrinkage, and with that also means that there'll be less curling within the product when it's in floating construction. So there's a minimal risk of cracking, and there is no curling that you can sometimes see with cementitious products. The amount of movement joints that are going to be required, or stress relief joints, are really reduced. You're looking effectively that you can lay with this product 1,000 square meters and have no construction joint. So you can go up to 1,000 square meters. That's assuming that the aspect ratio is 2:1 and there are no restraints in the screed or re-entrant corners, so no columns and such like. If there are, then it reduces the actual square meterage for the individual bays. If it's got underfloor heating in there, then that would be 300 square meters on a 2:1 aspect ratio. You can generally traffic the screed after 24 hours. It is subject to site conditions, so on rare occasions it can take longer than that, but generally 24 hours. Because the screed is pumped in and it goes in very quickly, you're able to increase productivity. So you're able to lay up to 2,000 square meters a day. So that's dependent on the type of building, how open it is, and also local services. How far is it away from the plant? Are they able to get enough trucks on? Is it able to be serviced in that way? So with everything on hand, you can get those larger volumes laid. When comparing to sand and cement, the thickness of the screed can be reduced. Now, with specialist modified sand and cement screeds, you can get some really thin screeds. But comparing to a traditional 1:4, you can actually get a reduced thickness. So a reduced thickness generally means that the weight and the drying times are reduced as well. So if you're keeping towards the minimums that the flowing screed can obtain, then you're going to have a faster drying. It can be force dried. So cementitious screeds, you wouldn't look at force drying. So after 7 days, you can turn underfloor heating on. You can use dehumidifiers to actually take the moisture out of the screed. So after 7 days, the reaction has taken place, the crystallization of the binder has taken place, and so really you can just extract the moisture. Any heating of the screed needs to be controlled along British standard guidelines. Because of the density of the product, the efficiency and thermal conductivity of a heating system is greater. So it's quicker to respond, quicker to heat, quicker to also cool down. We spoke about shrinkage as being a benefit. So even though there is so much more water in the product, the shrinkage is certainly reduced. And if you've got less of those movement joints in, there's less joints to contend with in your floor coverings when they go on. You may want to consider movement joints if you've got a heated system and you want to separate different zonal areas where you're heating at different temperatures. Then you may want to put a joint in between those areas. And you've also got to consider thermal movement. If you're heating one area, you're not heating another area, that there's going to be differential heating between those two particular areas. So that's just something to consider when you've got those movement joints set up and in place. The weakest area within a screed are going to be the shortest span. So that's going to be sort of across doorways, off re-entrant corners, etc. So the obvious one is to put those joints across doorways. Compaction. This is whilst not a self-leveling product, compaction, this is a self-compacting product. So with a traditional sand and cement, you need to compact the product to make sure that you get full strength. With this product, it is self-compacting. In terms of durability of the product, it's not a wearing surface. There are a few screeds out there that are wearing surfaces, but the majority are non-wearing surfaces and require a suitable floor covering to actually go on top, which is pretty much standard to most screeds. So you can cover it with tiles, wood, carpet. So it's very flexible as to what you can actually put on there. It's not suitable for areas that are going to be in contact with moisture, with wet areas on a regular basis. So perhaps changing rooms and such like, you'd probably want to avoid using calcium sulfate. You could use a cementitious product in the changing rooms and then the calcium sulfate elsewhere. So probably using exterior yards and places like that, you wouldn't really want to use this product. A typical 6 meter delivery would take approximately 30 minutes to discharge. So you can get rid of 6 cubic meters in 30 minutes. Once the screed is in position, it would then be finished with what they call a dapple bar, which is an aluminium bar, a rounded aluminium bar, to first of all remove the air bubbles. So that's on pass 1. At 90 degrees to the first pass, you would then pass again, and that would just bounce literally on the surface, and this would produce a smooth, level surface that is then suitable to adhere your floor coverings. The screed must be dry before the floor coverings are to be applied. So generally a test is advisable. And for permeable floor coverings, such as carpet, then you're looking at 0.5%, 0.5% moisture, and for vinyls that would 1% on permeables, and for vinyl floor coverings that would be 0.5%. If it's laid on a damp substrate, then what you'll probably find is you'll get delamination if it's not dry. So it's always advisable to take a moisture reading rather than just rely on a number of days and it should be dry, because there are lots of factors that will enhance or prevent the actual drying process. When you're applying your floor coverings, if it's a cement substrate, then you will need it to be primed. So you'll need to prime it to make sure that the screed is then compatible. Calcium sulfate and concrete directly are not compatible, so you'll generally need a primer in between the two, if bonding calcium sulfate to something that's cementitious. There are adhesives that are calcium sulfate adhesives, so if you watch out for those as well. So the actual depths, you've got a specialist calcium sulfate liquid screed, and that will go down to 15 mil bonded. You've then got the standard version of the calcium sulfate liquid screed, and that will go down to 20 mil. You've then, in unbonded construction, you've got 30 mil, and then in floating, you've got 35 and 40 mil for domestic and commercial respectively. And if you've got underfloor heating pipes in there, you're actually looking at 30 mil coverage over the pipes with the standard calcium sulfate and 20 mil with a specialist version of that. So I hope that helps. If you've got any further questions regarding liquid screed, we'd only be too happy to answer them. Thank you very much.